mute myself so they can hear me, and then I'll switch over.
I'm on the sides.
Yeah, I just borrowed the main screen just for a minute because I want to do this guy here. All right. So thanks everybody for coming out. There's a smaller crowd than usual because I was busy and I didn't even put it into the Goddard Dateline thing. But thankfully, because our normal presenter is sick with like cooties or something, so he's not here. He wisely figured that him spreading cooties by sharing his VR goggles was probably not a good idea. So we will reschedule Ben Guevara's with the virtual reality talk for another time. Next time around, I think we're supposed to have the SharePoint presentation by the Microsoft MVP. I'm still trying to make sure we to verify that one, but that should be up next. If not, then we'll try to get Ben in next week. But today we have two substitute speakers. Leighton Meredith is going to present. I'm also going to present. I will be writing my presentation as Leighton is doing his presentation. So you won't get the nice Giphy images in the middle of the presentation like I planned to do. So just imagine them. Maybe I'll leave blank spaces in there for like imagine a Giphy here sort of thing.
Wait, why is it a bad thing?
What? Blasphemy! It's always supposed to be gifts in a dev presentation. I think that's like a requirement nowadays.
Hold it. You want a cat? You just want kittens and puppies in it?
I don't think that's really rude. It's
That's to keep you like focused. When you're falling asleep, then you do a little thing, and it's like, oh, there you are. Okay. All right.
Hey, her art's very good.
Yeah. All right. But so Leighton's going to be up first. I just wanted to bring up this on the screen as well. We have a bunch of talks that are lined up, but we have a lot more in the backlog, and we have very few speakers. So if at all possible, if you are in any way, shape, or form in a position like there, I think the other one, there you go.
Thank you.
If you are in any way, shape, in a position to present, then please, by all means, get in touch with me. You do not have to be an expert on the topic. You just have to be willing to get up and talk in front of people. We will not heckle you to your face. It will be fine. It will be over Slack or some other medium that you can mute. But honestly, no, seriously, it's all good. I've never seen anyone get up here and it not go well. So by all means, let me know if you're
First time.
not helping, man. Say that after the fact.
I signed up for like
big data.
Learning, big data. Is there any interest in that, or am I the only guy?
No, I'm just waiting. You're on there. It's assigned to you. I just need you to tell me a date when you're going to do it, and I'll put it over into the schedule section. So yeah, I think there'll be plenty of interest in that.
All right.
But
I don't have any feedback from the group.
Just take it away.
Yes, we're for it.
There you go. That is
I'm interested.
that is considered
I'm reading a couple of books.
that is considered feedback. All right. So Leighton, I'm going to give it to you now, and you can go ahead and take it away. You can unmute, and I will mute myself.
Oh yeah, no, he's not here. He is. Okay. So he has a couple of YouTube videos. Fun functions. Matthias Johansson. So I have his face up on the screen paused because this is how Andre and myself felt when, what's his name? Bob, when he got sick. When
Chose a Bill or Bob.
What was his name?
Bob.
The developer that was supposed to speak.
Ben.
Right. When Ben called in sick, basically. Okay. So where's the volume?
Try.
You gotta plug in volume here.
Yeah, plug that in here.
All nicely wrapped up.
There you go.
Oh, so you have to connect it.
Yep. There you go.
Okay.
No,
Still not working.
Try the volume down here, our YouTube player.
I'm
There you
turning
go.
all the way
Oh,
up.
wow, we're about to get theater
Well,
stuff.
through HDMI, it may be trying to play them.
Okay. So there is sound coming out. So I'm gonna turn mine all the way up. And then You have to be very quiet. So we okay. He was in a rush. He had to rush to do everything that he needed to do. Point. So I am Leighton Meredith, and I will be as much as I can. So what I'm going to be presenting on today is the 5 tips to quickly understand a new code base and the 3 developer growth stages. So going over to the next slide. So the first stage is, well, there are 5 stages. So when you work as a programmer, it's only a small percentage of your time that you're actually writing code. You know, a lot of your time is spent trying to understand code that's already written. You know, it's either code that's from other people or code that's written by yourself a few years ago or a few months ago. It's not easy to get a completely new code base. So when you start your new job, that's probably when you get one. But understanding new code as a developer, there are 5 stages based on what what's his name? Based on what Mateus had in his video. So the first step is finding a mentor. So finding a mentor, it's a good thing to have a mentor that's already familiar with the code base. You can ask them a lot of questions, and pretty much they will have to be willing to be interrupted with questions. It's even better if you can arrange some time with your customer, you know, to let them know that the mentor will be assisting you at this time, and the workload might be a little, you might not be churning out code as effectively or as quickly as they would like. In some cases, it's to find a mentor. It might be an open source project, and there are other cases where the company's culture is crappy and people are not willing to help each other out. You should always try and find a mentor. Without a mentor, it's pretty much like you're doing archaeology, and it's you digging through data, words, numbers that might not make sense initially. But if you have somebody that's helping you out, then it would be a good place to start. So that would be finding a mentor. Okay, just click on it. So the second thing is getting an overview. So getting an overview, this is where you ask your mentor to give you a high-level overview of the system, its design philosophy and style or lack of style. If it uses third-party frameworks and libraries, have a list of them. It really helps to understand the documentation. It's you through the isolation, and it helps you when you're trying to express yourself. Be writing. It is also helpful if your mentor can give you a history lesson, why the system can be and what it was before, and stuff like that. So high-level overview of the system and the individual frameworks and libraries. May not be all of them, because for me, C#, there's a lot of frameworks and there's a lot of libraries, that stuff. Asking the mentor to provide a history lesson. It's always good to have past experiences and knowing where the code is actually coming from, to know if it's something that you can do moving forward. Doing a small quest. That's our next thing. Pretty much doing a small quest is asking your mentor to assign or giving you a task in the code base that they think would be manageable. It's usually something like fixing a bug or adding a small feature, nothing too significant. Pluralsight and code kata, that's one of the things that we actually thought about doing in place of Ben today, and Code Academy. Those 3 sites, they actually help it's like a math problem for developers. They give you scenarios, like tiny little cases that you can code through, and you can basically create solutions. And this would be going with it through your mentor. Okay. Other one is don't get stuck rule. So the don't get stuck rule is something that developers, we don't really follow it that well. Sitting down and trying to fix the quest on your own, you can ask your mentor if you get stuck in 15, 20 minutes. I say 15 to 30. I would say an hour. Always try on your own for a bit, but only for a bit. Based on what he says here, in his experience, you can figure most things out on your own in 15 minutes. But if you pass that, you most likely won't figure it out in hours. The don't get stuck rule is very important, but surprisingly hard to follow. Because when you get stuck, you have a tendency to try to stick to it and fix it yourself. I have a task right now that I've been stuck on for probably 2 weeks. So I need to work on my don't get stuck rule. I actually did we had a developer, was it a tag up earlier today? And we kind of made some progress, but so I'm still working on myself. You know, nobody's perfect. Break Time for Mac is actually an app. It's just a site that it has a timer on it. So if you get stuck at that time and it goes off, then you can ask for help. And I think this is the last one. Use code review.
Your homework.
It's coming. Okay, use code review. So the image that's here, it's pretty much how it would start off with good code versus bad code for code review. We have a lot of, well, initially when we started, I had a lot of WTFs on my code reviews. Now it's down to probably 3 or 4. So that's good. When you have a fix and you submit your code for code review by your mentor, they help your development stages because they point out changes that you can make. Even though the code works well on your part, they point out changes that you can make to reuse parts of a code base instead of writing your own. It helps like how to make your changes fit holistically within the project and not just in that individual part. Another side note, if the team having code review on every change is the single best quality improvement that you can do to your process. It improves knowledge sharing, it improves quality, and it improves consistency. And it also makes everyone that's associated with the code feel ownership. So I was a little bit hesitant with the code review. I think that code review has helped me significantly to be so the recap for the 5 rules: find a mentor, get an overview, do a small quest, have a don't get stuck rule, use code review, and the final step is repeat step 3 to 5. Rinse and repeat. Okay. So, well, there's another one. So 3, you have this is extra time we're going in now. So there are 3 developer growth stages. So this is something that I saw from a guy named Blixt. It's Blixt. And he talks about the 3 phases in the life of a developer. So there's the novice hacker, the philosophizing abstractor, and the wise hacker. So the novice hacker sounds something like, this code sure is ugly and I don't quite understand why it works, but here it is. So this is when you're starting out, you know, you're copying and pasting things from all over the internet. You have no idea what it is and how it works, but you're just getting stuff done. You are churning out code. And as you get older, you grow into another stage that's called the philosophizing abstractor. So the philosophizing abstractor, is this too distracting? The smoke. So the philosophizing abstractor, he's like, well, I'm going to try my best British voice. This code works for now, but if I move this part into a factory and create an interface for these methods, it'll also support all these future cases I can think of. As a professional programmer, most of us, we use our times trying to understand other people's code. Guy, Mateus, he said, I've recently had an interesting experience of taking over code written by someone who's a doctor by trade, not a programmer. He expected the code to be incredibly messy and that he would have to spend a lot of time making sense of it, but in fact, it was actually the opposite. His code is messy. There is duplication galore, spelling errors everywhere, but it doesn't matter because the code was straightforward.
So wait a minute. So it's okay to have spelling errors in your code.
If you're a doctor by trade. You're a doctor by trade. You're a doctor and not a developer, yes.
Okay.
Yes, so you still need to work on your spelling.
You
So-
just spell it right. You just have to spell it consistently.
Yeah, consistency.
Don't encourage him. Don't encourage him. Have you guys seen his code in code review? Yeah.
No.
Yeah, okay.
We were discussing having one of those.
So yeah, but his code was consistent and it was simple, and it was a simple path to solving the problem. It was easy to understand and read, even though it wasn't elegant. But in contrast, the same Mateus, he's taken over code written by programmers that have a lot of knowledge about software design patterns, optimization, and they use it everywhere in their application. There is code that had no spelling errors. Their code was abstract. It had an abstract base class, was implement the abstract base class, passing an object with interface that inherits from a specific base interface, and everything will just work with a logarithmic time complexity. So it was freaking awesome. In a way, it's all very impressive when you put it together. But when it comes down to it, it's kind of hard to understand because you have to figure out what the program does. You have to move to this other file and figure out what this concept does. And then remember that this thing is being injected here. And the programmer that wrote it, he has the best intentions. But he had the best intentions by trying to abstract the problem away from you. But in doing so, he kind of just made it harder. So this brings us to the third stage of growth, which is the wise hacker. The wise hacker doesn't say anything. The wise hacker just moves fast, break things, revise and fix, and get shit done. Oh, I didn't know I was put it there. Okay,
I don't
so
know if I call that wise. Productive. Yes.
well, yeah. So the wise hacker, he knows the same patterns and has the same optimization skills as a philosophizing abstractor. The difference is that the wise hacker knows that you should almost never use this knowledge. The key word here is almost. There are cases where you should optimize and generalize and modularize the hell out of your code. And when that happens, the wise hacker knows how to do it and how to do it well. But the wise hacker only does it when absolutely necessary, because generalization, modularization, and optimization has costs. They are not universally good. They are not free. You need to get a lot of value out of them, or they will not be worth it. When you're generalizing, optimizing, or modularizing, so the wise hacker does generalize, he does optimize and modularize, but the wise hacker only does that when it's necessary. The wise hacker writes code that is stupid and simple and straightforward as long as this is possible. To recap, I'm winding down now, closing time.
Okay.
There are three types of developers. There's the novice hacker, the philosophizing abstractor, and the wise hacker. Of a developer can be very inefficient at solving problems for different reasons, but put them together with experience, and that's what makes a good developer. I think it's done. Yeah, move fast and break things. That's what we were talking about. Move fast and break things. Okay.
All right. Out of time. Let's see what I got. I know what I got. But y'all gonna see.
Okay.
All right. Thanks,
Okay,
Layton. Appreciate
How do I
that.
get around to?
Yeah.
Oh, thanks. I didn't know that was awesome.
See if this thing is gonna work. Ooh, should probably get my presentation up. That would probably help.
Well, I was going to ask a question when you were talking about like the katas and all that. The advent of code. Think of it.
No.
Code where everybody a problem or 2 problems a day. You had the first part and then you get the second part. I didn't get into it.
Where was this? Oh, really?
It's just an online, it's a website.
Online coding.
I'm not sure.
You can make teams too.
I haven't seen it. So they did it from the 1st to the 24th. I thought it was actually initiated through our group.
I think a lot of people here were talking about it. I'm
Muted.
muted. Hey, hopefully this doesn't break down. Yeah. Okay. Sharing me, but not the screen. I should do that. I should fix that. Definitely fix that. Back to send. Okay. All right. Success. Am I still muted? I'm not muted. All right. So I've been promising to give this talk. 3 months, I think it's been. I've yet to have time to sit down and write it. It is one that I really want to do. Have it done really well because I think it's a really important topic that kind of gets overlooked quite a bit, but it impacts on us as developers, as sysadmins in the workforce, especially in industries where things move ahead pretty fast, right? Some other industries, if you have knowledge, if you have experience, that knowledge or experience doesn't decay over time. But with development, depending on where you are, it could be faster, it could be slower. But the overall technology arena does have a decay factor, and it's getting faster and faster. About that. So this talk is continuous growth. Do you have 20 years of your experience 20 times? Because those are 2 very different things. So roll in there so you can get the punchline at the end. The highlighted points in yellow, I think, so I really want to take home. This thing at the pack. So can I have everyone just stand up for a minute? And get your blood flowing. All right. It's a little exercise. And you sit down when you hear your years of experience. Yeah. Right. So
Which or
you guys have been programmers. You have 1 year of working experience for this,
Look
right?
at your resume. How many years will be on it?
Yeah. 1 year experience, sit down.
Don't even start going.
3.
You gotta go faster.
Yeah, I'll see. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I'm 7. 10, 11,
Double it.
12,
Yeah,
13,
Some of us are older.
14, 15, 16, 17. All right. 19, 20, 25, 26. You got a winner. So what's your number?
Count how you count 30 to 32.
Oh, that's pretty awesome. That's pretty awesome. All right.
I'm actually
So-
saying from out of village.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good
All right. So here's the thing. How do you define experience? And I say, I sit down with you. Everyone asks, well, what do you mean? Right? There's dictionary the direct observation or participation in events as a basis of knowledge. The factor state of having been affected by or gained knowledge through direct observation or participation. Words, but here's an example to kind of drive it home, right? Language, whether your first language, your second, your third, whatever the case may be, you may learn basic words, you may learn basic sentence structure. If you stop learning at that point, like you just take that same experience that you got into that 1 year and you continued on that same manner, could you call yourself having 10 years language talk to you of speaking that particular language? Chances are no. Multiple years does not in itself mean that you have that many years of experience. Or sitting down at those years or counting down, that is not indicative of how many years of experience each of us actually has, right? So I think you guys sat down around 3 or 4, you may actually have more experience than some of us that sat down at 10 or 15. Especially in a technology field where things are moving so fast. How and we'll get into that. That's what the whole talk is about. Equate those things. How do we keep ourselves from not being in the camp where we're and daddy and mommy and feed me and poopy, all right? When we're at our college exams or whatever the case may be, right? Or we need to speak a little bit more eloquently in the situation, right? We want to continue to grow. And what that growth means may mean different things, right? So when I say continue to grow, what's the first thing that comes to you guys' mind? More technology, new tools, right? Right. But that is not necessarily the case, and we'll talk about that as well, right? You don't have to be the one that's like staying up 3 o'clock in the morning, hacking away at things, bloodshot eyes, you know what I mean, all day, every night to gain experience, to gain more experience, right? To getting there. And for different people, those things may look differently, right? You go apply for things or you're talking to people and that sort of thing. So what does that actually mean? It actually varies from location to location and over time, right? If you were to go to Google or Netflix and you want to be a junior engineer, it may look very different than if you're in the government or you're in a small business. Those juniors are not necessarily equal, right? Over time, too, things change. Like 10 years ago, what you would need to be called a senior engineer is quite different from probably what you need to be called a senior engineer today, right? You need to do you need to be full stack, right? You need to go from the database all the way down to the front end, right? And you have to understand HTTP stuff, right?
I just want to say that, like, people still get jobs in C++. I just got a message from LinkedIn saying, hey, don't you want to learn Bloomberg and write in C++? I'm like, no.
Yeah, because everything that comes from LinkedIn makes sense. No, but seriously, there are silos, and not silos, verticals, where we'll talk about that as well later on, but you don't have to use the vertical that you're in to gain more experience, right? So if you're a C++ developer and you've been doing C++ for 20 years, you can still be gaining experience, although you're still doing the same thing, right? In a way, and so to speak. And we'll touch a little bit on that later on in the presentation. That's that senior and mid-level and junior are all titles that are placed on people that some management has some levels or structures, and they're trying to fit you into one of those things. So they're just titles. They don't speak to your experience. They don't speak to your knowledge. Sometimes they'll just give you senior because, hey, that's all we have, right? Or sometimes they'll put you in junior because they just want to pay less. That it's really directly proportional to your experience. Varies greatly from company to company, from environment to environment. So why should you care? All right. I always like inserting, because a topic is a topic, but if I don't care, it doesn't matter what evidence you have, what proof you have, what you're going to say. If it does not matter, then there's no point in saying it, right? I'll do this. I mentioned this already. Most of us, our companies consider years of experience, right? I think that's how my company does it. I remember I was I think a 3 for a long period of time. I'm like, what do I need to take to get to a 4 or a 5? So you got to have 7 or 8 years of experience. I'm like, well, I have like 12. So they weren't going to automatically do it for me. I had to ask the question. One day from being this to that, what was the difference? There was really no difference in my knowledge, my experience factor, right? Difference in my paycheck, although it was very slight. I think I was a little bit more naive at that time. Did not realize what was happening there. But I did get the title that I thought I wanted, and that shut me up, and that made me happy, and everyone was okay for the time being, right? I had 3 personal stories that I want to tell you, and this is to get to the point of why do we care, right? So in a previous contract I was on, for whatever the reasons, budget cuts, it's Friday, whatever the case may be, 7 senior developers had been laid off, right? 7 senior developers were laid off all at one time. None of them had grown their skill set in decades, right? They were doing the same thing they were doing 20 years ago, right? Eventually they were replaced. Those 7 senior developers were replaced by one, and I think later on another junior developer at probably a 1/5 of their salary. And those 1 or 2 junior developers produced more than those 7 senior developers combined, right? What's worse, and I think that's bad, but what's really worse is that those senior developers could not find jobs as developers. Most of them could find jobs as developers. None of them could find jobs as senior developers, which means their paychecks took a hit. Their household, their income, let's say if they're their primary breadwinner or sometimes the only breadwinner in their homes, that's important, right? That's beyond the technical, it's like, if I go home and tell my wife, hey, I lost my job and guess what? We're going to be panhandling for a while. She's not going to be happy. This affects us. And again, it wasn't because these 7 developers, somehow their workload had dropped off. They were doing the same thing they were doing for years, right? They were consistent. They showed up on time. They were good people. They didn't get laid off because of something they did necessarily wrong. It was just a circumstance under which they got laid off, right? But they could not get back to where they were.
What
right?
programming language?
Huh?
Were they doing Fortran?
No, I think they were Java Code Fusion. But I don't think the language itself necessarily is the point, because all the languages, they all grow and they all change. So we'll get to that a little bit later. But another example, I worked with another senior developer, found that he could never be replaced. He was too important. He was critical he had critical knowledge. A junior developer can come in and know any of these things. He is no longer employed. That system that was so critical has been replaced by another one. I heard he's working in Microsoft Access databases now. And that's because he had a friend that helped him get employed. Really, relied on friendships that he had, which is good. You want to develop a network. That's another important thing. But had that network fallen through, I don't know where he would be. And I know for a fact he's the only breadwinner in his household, right? So I don't know if he's taking a pay cut. That's his own personal information, but he's gone from doing real development work to doing Microsoft Access. And eventually, if management comes in and says, we were paying this person this amount to do necessary, he could be back in that same situation again, right? All right, last one. I know a developer that worked here. We invited her to the dev group multiple times. She was really nice, really cool person, but she's always, I was too busy to attend. Got so much going on. I'm so busy here, right? She eventually lost her job due to a contract transition. Again, probably, maybe no fault of her own. Contracts switched over, they just didn't pick her up. But because she was a nice person, our management said, hey, Andre, can you guys interview her in case of a dev position comes up available that we can fill her in because we want to help her out. She's a good person, that sort of thing. I'm like, sure, of course. We set up the interview, me and 2 other people. I was the only, I think, real technical person in that situation. The short of the story is that she was busy on her contract, but none of her skills were current, right? She was not relevant. So if it came down to hiring her at a much higher salary or hiring a junior person that knew a lot more, it wouldn't be fair to the team that she would go on to. We could have hired 2 junior developers that could have helped you out. We hired this other person because, man, we like her. I think she got an inkling that her skills were a little bit atrophied. Resume and the interview, like she's like, hey, she's working with AWS. And we're like, we would love to go to the cloud one day. And having you on our team would really help us with that. But it's like hundreds of different services. Which she says, well, AWS. It was evident that she knew the buzzwords, but her skill set, her actual working knowledge of those things, her experience with those things was missing. It wasn't there, right? So we can fake it sometimes with non-technical people, but most times in an interview situation nowadays, you're not only going to be interviewed by the non-technical people, you will be interviewed by technical people, and they will call BS, right? As much as I've been in multiple interviews, again, I'm sitting there, my manager's sitting there, the interview's over, and my manager's like, great, we found our person. I'm like, when? I love him. I want to hang out with him too. He sounds so cool, but I don't want to do his work for him. You know what I mean? So it feels up to date, right? So the main point, again, in yellow, was that she was too busy. She was busy, but she was doing busy work, right? She allowed her contract, her position, to get her in a situation where she's constantly busy doing things and she's not investing in herself, right? And so her value went down as the contract went on. So another key point, they weren't bad people, and it's not their fault that they got in those, well, man, let's take that back. The reason their job situation changed was not their fault. Performance, whatever the case may be, it was things that were probably beyond their control. People weren't nasty or anything like that. Something changed in their job performance, in their job situation, and they got outside of the bubble that is Guarded. All these things happen here at Guarded. All these people were here at Guarded.
In this last case, did the person's customers decide to go in a new direction with tools they were using? I mean, what?
So same tools, same team, minus a few people. And maybe they just figured that we can get it done with less. I don't know what their reasons were for that. I do know the exact same tool is still being used and the exact same people, some of the same people are still there.
You know, our customers had the same tool for years and years. You probably
understand
that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not going to change until the tool is no longer supported by the vendor.
Yeah. So
there's no push to change.
That's going to come up.
For the customer.
That's going to come up in a minute too as well, because I had that same experience. So for her situation, again, same tools are being used, same customer. She's just no longer on the team. And there's another senior developer there that is probably in the same situation. They kept her and got rid of the other one. I don't know what the reasons were. Maybe one cost less than the other. I don't know. Happened. The point of the matter is she's now in that situation. I don't know what her status is now, but it can happen to any of us, right? It wasn't her fault, but it was the difference in her experience, right? Current experience, we would have picked her up. but we couldn't. It wouldn't have been fair, right?
Is she a pack employee?
No, but I don't want to give too many details. Like I'm trying to anonymize. I'm trying to anonymize the data so that we don't like, because these are actual people that actually work here. So
she was working all this time, right? She have opportunity to learn new things, or
yes, like I
maybe
said,
she just didn't have time because she was busy with her own thing, doing her job. Or maybe she didn't have an opportunity because of management or.
So all the things you just mentioned are going to be in this presentation. Because I've been thinking about this for a long time. I didn't get a chance to write everything down, but we can talk about the things I didn't get a chance to write down. But yes, it was a situation. Her management kept her busy. She thought she didn't have time, right? But we're gonna talk about why we want to avoid those pitfalls, right? How we can avoid those pitfalls, not just why, but how. Practical things, right? So this is mine. I won't anonymize mine. This is me. I thought I was a big fish in a little pond. You know what I mean? When I came to NASA, I graduated from University of Maryland with a CS degree in University of Maryland. If anybody here went to University of Maryland, so you guys know it's torturous. If you made it through there, you feel like you're cream of the crop. You know what I mean?
I had that from seeing you.
Huh?
You can get from seeing you.
Well, I will say that. I may still have an ego problem, but I won't admit that because I have an ego problem. So, on top of that, I had 6. No, it's like real people. No, those are real people.
So
can.
So you want to talk about the people who really go through the ringer? Talk to the other.
No, I know. I had a friend. I was like, dude, no, not me, not I, not I, dude, not I. No, it's real talk. I know what you're talking about. All right. On top of that, I had 6, or I can't remember. I think it was 6 or 7 years of experience at the State Department with actually a good team of developers, right? The one guy that led our group, there was nothing that this dude seemed like he couldn't do. And he was a good mentor. He was a good teacher. I had another mentor, as Nathan pointed out, Raj. She's actually the one that got me the job because they asked to hire her. And she's like, hell no, but I know another guy. And I'm like, cool, I'll go to NASA. A good experience coming in, right? When I got here, the situation was totally different, right? I got dropped into, I was no longer on a team, right? I felt that I was ahead of my peers, right? There was no pressure for me from the customer to grow, right? Because everything was working, right? There was no peer reviews, there were no code reviews. No one was looking at my code but me, right? And so I was in this situation, and because of that combination of things, for the first 6 or 7 years here, I didn't grow. I did not learn one new technical thing because I didn't figure that it was no need, right? These people need to catch up with me. Like, I don't need to grow anywhere. I was in this stupid mindset that was very negative, right? It wasn't practical. It wasn't helping me. I think I have it in here, so I'll mention it. What actually snapped me out of this is I switched. Something happened with the management here, and I was like, screw you guys. I'm not staying here. I'm leaving. I'm going to this other place, go work with these other developers. I went over there, and I'm like, cool. I'm with the team of developers now. But you guys are also doing really old, backwards type things from the little bit of knowledge I had from the 6 or 7 years before, right? I should be an architect instead of just a developer, right? And my management then put it forward, like, okay, to be an architect, you need to know blah, 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 blah. It's like, cool, no problem, ego problem, remember? So I went off and started doing research onto what did it take to be an architect. And I'm like, holy crap, I am so far behind the rest of the world that is not in the Goddard bubble. And that's what kind of opened my eyes to a lot of things. And I started saying, I need to start growing technically. Because if, God forbid, because it happened to me twice before that situation, I was just fortunate where I left, got another job really quickly, and came back. So I was always in the Goddard bubble. So that's my story. I'm running out of slides, so I'm going to start talking to things a little bit more. Why should we care? So all of us are not at the same point in our careers, right? We have some people that are new, right? We're going to call her Alyssa. We have some we call in the journeyman, right? That's like in the middle of their career. We'll call that person India, right? We have the veteran, been around, grizzled, you know what I mean? Seen some things, right? Have some scars. Call that person Alyssa, Anuetta. And then we have the hopeful retiree. We'll call him Andre for some reason.
And he's still hoping he can retire soon.
Yeah, a little inside thing. This is just the people in my family listed in order of age. So this is my baby girl. She's 5. India's 16. I think she's like 34. My wife, I won't say the names, and then so on and so forth. Right. So we'll talk to each one of these different personas. And this is where I needed to have like the slide, the picture, so you can represent the person and what they're doing and that sort of thing. I didn't get a chance to really write out all the personas, but imagine the different personas. You probably fit into one of these categories, right? Hair is going to be different for each of these groups. Ultimately, it's going to go back to that you need a job sort of situation. You need to pay your bills, that sort of thing. But why you need to grow and advance, why you would want to grow and advance beyond is also going to be different for each one of these groups, right? Let me see if I can look at my notes a little bit now. Okay, so the newbie, Alyssa, she may have a CS degree or similar. She may have graduated from boot camp. She may be self-taught. What is her motivation, right? She wants to go from being that junior developer to that mid-level senior developer. She's hungry. She's learning. You know, she has that just inner desire to grow, right? That's what's been fueling her so far, and that's what's going to kind of keep fueling her to keep going forward, right? Because a lot of those CS degrees, the boot camps, all those things, they don't prepare you for the real world, right? They don't show you certain things. And my knowledge on this may be slightly outdated, but when I was in CS degree, we didn't talk about source control. We didn't talk about managing your work or speaking in front of people, things that you would need to do to get from that junior developer to that mid or senior level developer, right? You need to know how to talk to the customer. You know how to gather requirements. You need to know how to manage your code base. You need to know how not to accidentally delete your entire code base and not have a backup, right? Or revert your code base because that thing that you did last Friday while you were tired and about to go home is now causing your whole system to crash. You don't remember what change it was, right? Because you're tired and it was Friday.
Back in my day, when I was in computer science from University of Maryland, source control meant not dropping a box of punch cards.
And getting disorganized.
So again, experience over time, changes over time and situation, right? Yep. And I didn't get a chance to fill this part in with my notes, but the journeyman, his is going to be a little bit different, right? So he's been working for a few more years. He has a little bit more experience, but maybe he's being capped, right? He's looking for that raise. He's looking for that next level. And they're like, maybe not, maybe so, whatever the case may be. Maybe he's running into problems that he can't necessarily solve, or he wants to solve them in a slightly different, in a different way. He's tired of being that busy person, right? That person that's just doing a lot of work, but feeling like they're not getting ahead. They're not moving ahead, right? The veteran is just busy, right? Because they're the veteran. When things go wrong, they're the ones that people come and say, hey, I need you to solve this problem. They're always getting stuff thrown at them, right? They're always, and so for that person, going ahead just means getting some of their life back. You know what I mean? Being able to take a weekend off, going on vacation and not getting called. You know what I mean? That sort of thing, right? I'm trying to think. It was a few more things I had on this, but I just didn't fill it in. I was thinking about it. But another big part of that veteran growing in experience is how do they take the experience and knowledge that they have and share it back to the journeyman and the newbie, right? If they do that, they get their time back, right? That's part of how they now grow. So now instead of them being the individual contributor, the way that they need to grow now is to be a leader, right? How do they lead, right? How do they distribute their time? And that the skill set for that is totally different from being an individual contributor. That urge to get on the keyboard and fix the problem that you see the answer to, while it was good for you at the newbie and the journeyman, it is now getting in your way as a veteran, right? It is making you unproductive because you cannot get on everyone's keyboard and fix everyone's problem. That does not scale, right? It's not scale. So you need a whole different skill set in that part. Your experience now needs to change, right? You can no longer say Google Gaga and fix the keyboard thing. How to talk to people and motivate people and get them to do the thing that you know they can do, or frankly, get rid of the people that's getting in the way. That is also a skill set, you know, figuring out how to motivate people or figuring out how to get the toxic person off your team, right? So now the hopeful retiree, he's been around for a while. It's like, the heck, learning new stuff. Yeah, why should I spend time doing new stuff if I don't have the time to get the heck out of here? I put my time in, I've earned my stripes, right? So for this person, their motivation for growing experience is going to be different, right? I had this in my mind and now I'm slipping it. One thing is just, a lot of times I've known people that are really vested in their work, and all of a sudden they're like, it's like they lose something. They lose that spark, right? And sad to say, a lot of people like, you know where I'm going.
People I know who are retired are happy.
Yeah, I didn't know your people.
Not met like a retiree who wasn't like, oh, this is so great.
Oh, okay, all right. So yeah, I know the wrong people. So
he works at APL in Bellsville, retired on the young side, moved to the Villages in Florida.
Yeah.
And got tired of drinking beer all day and playing golf.
Yeah.
Got his old job back at APL for less pay. Moved back to this area.
Yeah. So there are some of those people, and maybe I don't know the right people, but on the positive side. So you want to keep your mind sharp, right? So your motivations are different. You want to be, you know, not necessarily running to the newest, greatest, latest thing, but just you want to keep your, you know, keep your mind sharp, that sort of thing. You want more time with your family, right? Because that's the whole point of retiring, right? You can be at the, huh? Oh, maybe not. I don't know. But the golf range, I don't know. Oh, you want more care about that. That's more PC. All right. So you don't want to be in that situation where you're right at the cusp of that retirement. Horribly wrong, right? So you also too, maybe, again, similar to the veteran, you don't have to grow technically at that point, right? Now maybe your job is more passing on that knowledge, that experience, those things to the next generation, right? Of people that are coming behind you. You also, most likely, in the same vein, you're probably looked up to by the people that are in the, okay, want to be where you are, that sort of. We do things this way. Well, here's why. Here's, you know, I mean, that sort of thing. So your motivations may be different. Made a lot more sense because I had, as I was talking to different people and different, how would I motivate this person to continue to grow spirit? I mean, yes, to continue to grow to continue to grow an experience, right? For different people. I just wish I had more time to actually write this out so I can make sure I get impact. So avoid these, right? I think I was at the point I was running out of typing. Hey, boy, that's boys. Oh, okay. Don't say okay. Yeah, like that's not out of the question for me. Kind of gets to what Mike was saying, right? And I think Kevin was saying as well. Like, if there's no pressure from your customer to grow and experience, right, technically or otherwise, then you might fall into the pitfall of, I am doing a good job. There's no need for me to change what I'm doing, right? And we want to figure out how can we avoid or address these sorts of things. Oh yes, I made it due to time. All right, so we'll just talk from here on out. Maybe what we'll do is, because I think we're at like 1:15, and we'll leave you guys with a cliffhanger. I'll give you a little bit more, and then we'll finish up another time with real slides and real things, whatever. But I'll give you this. We want to try to stay abreast of the changes in the industry, in deep and know exactly how each nut and bolt works. No, it's not necessary, right? But if you understand what the reason for a hammer is, when you run across a nail, you can say, hey, wait a minute, I know of a thing that's similar that may fit here. Let me go look it up and learn more about it. Or if you're at that senior level, hey, junior person, go look up blah, blah, blah. That may solve your problem, right? Did you have to know it deeply? No, because we can't know everything deeply. It's just the field of knowledge is too big, right? My job doesn't offer training. How does that fit in? Or my job is keeping me busy doing busy work. That one I think is a huge one, especially I've seen here, right? If your job does not offer training and your job is keeping you busy, your job is also going to not be responsible for your mortgage when you no longer have a job. So it is incumbent on each of us, like, treat yourself as a company of one, right? You're a company of one contracting to whoever you work for, right? At any given time point, I think we're at will state. They can say, thank you very much. I have no reason why I'm letting you go, but I am nonetheless letting you go. If you have not invested something back into yourself, then your stock is where it's at, right? And no one else is going to cry about that except for you, right? So if your job is not offering you training, it's still incumbent on you to get that training.
How many of us are doing that outside of normal business hours? That's hard to do.
I'll try.
I put in almost every 2 or 3 months. There's a free book offered on Packet Publishing.
Yeah.
Security, programming languages, stated it.
Yeah.
I mean, it.
You have to just want to do it.
So here, let me bit too, right? Because some of us, like myself, I don't like reading books. It's not for me. So one of the reasons this group exists is because I have a family. I have a lot of things I have to do after hours. I knew that having a group, going to meetups, was essential to growing quickly, keeping up to date. But I didn't have time to do it after work. So guess what? We're doing it at lunch, at work.
Perfect.
There's a way, right? Let's say your job comes to you and say, we need a new widget. You can do that widget in PHP because you've been doing PHP for 100 years. Or you can do it in JavaScript. They don't care. They just need the widget. Do the widget. Maybe you do the widget and you add tests because you want to learn a little bit more, right? The end user does. It shows up as a widget. They don't care how it got there. So there are some ways that we can creep in knowledge growth, even in ways that our customers and our employers, even if they're not promoting it, we can still put it in our normal day-to-day jobs. Add a code review. No one's going to stop you from doing that, right? There's a bunch of different ways that we can add learning opportunities into our day-to-day work. But the only thing that's required is a desire to right? Best way I found the learning in school, a hack if you need to learn something really quickly and learn it really well, getting a group of at least 3 people. Have one person smarter than you that understands it, have them teach it to you. Turn around and teach it to the other person. If you can teach it to the other person, guess what? You now know it, right? Because you can think you know something until you try to teach it. You find out, oh man, I didn't know it as much as I did. But that's a hack that you can use, right? We'll go into this a little bit more next time. So there's a couple of techniques as well. So I mentioned you don't have to learn a bunch of new things, right, to grow technically. So we're going to look at a breadth first versus depth first way of growing in experience, right? So does everyone know what breadth first versus depth first is? No.
Wider versus deeper.
Yes, exactly. So go wide, right? I mentioned that already, like just being abreast of what the industry is doing. Like you're not, it's a shallow level of experience or knowledge spectrum of things. And so when you're in a conversation with people, you can just, they're talking about containers. Guess what? I know what containers are. They're Docker containers. It's basically a like lightweight virtualization. Have I done it? No, but I can have a conversation with you and I can tell you what I do know about it. And maybe that's enough for me to get that other job where they're using containers and say, I can learn it, right? How does it fit in? Whatever the case may be. You know, what are the languages? What are their benefits, their drawbacks, those sort of things? Do I have a program in them? No, but I'm abreast of them. I know that they exist and I know what they're used necessarily for, right?
But isn't that still just using the buzzwords?
Don't exaggerate what you know, right? Don't ever lie about what you know. But the fact that you are aware of it lets the person know that you're aware of it and you're aware of the context that it's in. So now had that person that said AWS mentioned Lambda or S3,
EC2,
whatever, right? To the point where likely the person interviewing you only knows a certain level. If they know beyond that, just don't fake it, right? Just say, here's what I know and I'm willing to learn. Here's what I've learned in my spare time. We don't use it. I've never used it, but here's what I'm abreast of, right? That's enough because that shows initiative. Like a lot of the people that we've hired, it's not what they knew, it's their desire to learn, right? Because what you know today is going to be outdated 2 years from now. That's already a given fact, right? So what's more important is, do you have the desire and the aptitude to learn new things? Have you proven, because you can say you have it, have you proven that you have the desire and aptitude to learn new things, right? The other one is depth first. So I'm going to become an expert in this thing, right? C++ programming. C++ programming in regards to field gate arrays. I don't know what those are, but whatever, right? If you dig deep and become an expert in that, then you can get work, right?
Oh yeah.
Right? Because you become an expert in that. But that means I'm not talking about I know the syntax. I understand what the computer is doing at the fundamental levels in this particular segment, right? That's deeply valuable, right? But we have to pick one or the other, depth first or breadth first, right?
Jack of all trades versus the ball.
Yeah.
Or master of one.
Master of one, right? Because you got to be, yeah. But the other part to this too as well, I'll touch on this really briefly, is soft skills. Soft skills are important, right? If you really know your stuff, but your company can't sit you down in front of the customer, or you can't speak clearly and intelligently to someone without like either boring them with a bunch of technical details that they don't need to know about, or not being able to convince them of something, you put a cap on how far you can grow, right? So if you remember, I said I wanted to be an architect, right? What do you think an architect's job actually is? What does it entail? Any guesses? That's a huge part of it.
Designing a house, whatever.
Right? So
designing the house that the customer wanted.
Right.
Not designing a house.
So it's not designing the house that the customer wanted that won't fall down. Right? It has to be technically sound. But you have to explain to them why putting the electric faucet underneath the electric outlet underneath the faucet is not a good idea, right? But you have to have multiple skill sets, and one of those is soft skills. It's the technical skills to a certain degree, but it's also the soft skills. Like I can speak to you and understand where you're coming from, your business rules, your business case, and I can translate that into technical, and I can speak to the technical people about the business cases and the business people about the technical cases, right? And you can gain that experience in a number of ways. Let's say you build a new function or new feature, and your lead says, hey, we're going to go present this now to the customer. Hey, can I do that? Right? You built it. You know what it is. You know what it does. I know a lot of us are introverted, right? So what ends up happening in that case, and I've seen it, it's happening now for one of the developers that I know about, where it's like, you are really good technically, but you will always be a mid-level developer because you do not take the reins on your own career and do these little things, right? And you'll have people that will, how do I say this? You can have people that will exploit you because you can be their worker monkey and they will take all the credit for all the things you do. And they will continue to grow off the back of your own work, right? And sometimes it's, if some people say, I'm okay with that, that's fine. Make sure that it's an actual choice and not a choice that someone's making for you, right? Make it your own choice. If you say, I don't want to talk to people, I'm okay with I'm okay. I love writing code and all I care about is writing code. And this is what makes me happy. Fine. There's nothing wrong with that, right? There's nothing wrong with that at all. But don't let someone else make that choice for you. I've seen it happen multiple times. So don't let someone else do that for you. And I will leave you guys with that. I have a couple more things on mindset, playing with things, a couple other things that we'll touch on, but I'll do a better job with my slides. Yeah, and we'll have it again. We'll have a little bit more people, and we'll talk a little bit more about it. But thank you, everybody. If you guys want to talk about it before then, because I don't know when we'll fit it back in, because it'll probably be another one where if someone bails, we'll talk about this topic again. But if you want to talk about it before then, just shoot me a message, and I've been thinking about this quite a bit. So make sure everyone signed into the
CACKT hub.
Make sure everyone signed in.
Free.
Yep. All right.
DeAndre, could you